This analysis will examine the persuasive strategies of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's opponent debate speeches, as well as the underlying covert ideologies and implicit meanings. In doing so, a critical discourse analysis will be deployed. This approach is defined as a problem-orientated, indiscriminatory research movement, submitting a variety of approaches, each with different theoretical models, research methods, and agenda. The purpose of which is to analyse opaque as well as transparent structural relationships of dominance, discrimination, power, and control as manifested in language. Specifically, it seeks to reveal these ideologies and their representation of society and the power relations of within. As Faircloud states, it addresses the social wrongings in their discursive aspects and possible ways of righting or mitigating them. This approach is most suitable to the chosen political debate, as political speeches are arguably apparatuses to reproducing ideologies and maintaining the status quo. Therefore, a lot of hidden meanings can be found in their carefully prepared dialogues. Language plays a critical role, for every political action is prepared, accompanied, influenced, and played by language. I will be discussing the structural and orderliness of ideologies by using a macro, meso, and micro approach. This is to capture ideologies in all forms, macro to draw upon inequalities within wider society, meso to expose hidden meanings within lexications, and micro to reveal implicit power imbalances. So firstly with macro, and within this we can see, especially in Trump's speech, he strategically uses the dog whistling rhetoric, which is a coded message communicated through words or phrases commonly understood by a particular group of people but not by others. Trump does this by targeting anxious, vulnerable Americans, specifically the working class, as they tend to be most affected by unemployment. In doing so, he emphasises that others are taking the nation's hard-earned jobs. Trump addresses others as the Chineses. We can see this in the following example. Especially China, they are the best ever at it. What they are doing to us is a very, very sad thing. This not only reproduces racial divides, but it also instills hate and anger in the public to the enemy, i.e. the Chineses, creating a divide and strengthening their connection to Trump, as there is this sense of us and them. Clinton also deploys this method by using her gender to her advantage. She portrays herself as a saint and advocate for women's rights. She does this to appeal to the larger population of American women. We can see this when she becomes defensive in a fight with Trump to appear as a believer and fighter in equality. In the following quote, he tried to switch from looks to stamina, but this is a man who has called women pigs, slobs, and dogs, and someone who has said pregnancy is an inconvenience to employers. This was said by Clinton, but Clinton also engages in this tactic. She does this by purposely making inferences to her personal life and role as a woman, grandmother, etc., to be played as an innocent woman with good intentions. The purpose is to conceal any corruption scandals and make the public believe she wouldn't be capable of such, only equality movements. This can be seen in the following quote. Today is my granddaughter's 2nd birthday, so I think about this a lot. Next we had the critical race theory, which was coined, the term, by Hill in 2008. We can see this in Trump's dialogue that this is employed, as he refers to immigrants in such a negative light, and he frames those as though they are a threat to the public. And by doing so, he reproduces racial inequalities and stereotypes associated with immigrants. This can be seen in the following quote: "We have gangs roaming the streets, and in many cases they're illegally here. Illegal immigrants, and they have guns, and they shoot people, and we have to be very strong, and we have to be very, very vigilant." Therefore, Trump deploys the critical race theory, which is that as racism persists, not because the belief of white supremacy, but because the benefits whites gain. It also creates a us and them divide. Similarly, Clinton also utilises this tactic in bid to paint Trump as a racist. This can be seen in the following quote: "It's really unfortunate that he paints such a direct negative picture of black communities in our country. In this context, the strategy is used to make Trump look racist and to in turn make oneself appear the moral candidate." Going on to meso, which is the lexiconation, we can see in the dialogue that certain lexicanations, such as the examples I'm about to list, are used instead of opposing connotations. This is to naturalise the theme, to ensure the image that they are trying to portray is conveyed. So a lexiconation becomes naturalised to the extent its ideological function achieves dominance. For example, Trump refers to most oftenly to refugees as immigrants. Depending on the content, this isn't much of an offence or to propose a point. However, often in this same sentence, he will use the terms gun, violence, or crimes. The term immigrants within this context is to paint these people as outsiders that do not belong here and to instill fear and rage amongst the public. Other connotations and lexicanations of these words are refugees, victims of wars, homeless, newcomers, etc., but these are purposely not used because they do not align with the image trying to be portrayed. Curtin also uses this tactic to build connection to the public, as she implicitly refers to immigrants as bullies, a direct insult bound to instill hate and anger amongst the public, as this word is obviously associated with evil, heartlessness, etc. Going on to the next slide. So I also noticed in the dialogue that both of the candidates addressed the public differently based on the point they were trying to propose. For example, when speaking of the reputation of American and plans to improve the nation, the term Americans instead of you or us was used. This was to emphasise their pride of the nation and to suggest they hold the public in honour and high regard. Moreover, to make the public feel important and as though their lives matter. Whereas discussing the citizens, the terms you and your futures or us was used to stress unity and to use the strategy of personalisation. Personalisation, as discussed by Waddock, is used to give the impression that the candidates care about every citizen and to implicitly exert power by implying that their futures are in the candidates' hands. So going on to the next tactic of a micro approach, we have the anti-intellectualism, which was proposed by Libby Green in 2012. So this method was used to disguise one's privileged elite background to which they are superior and hold more power than the rest of society. This was an attempt to appear instead as an average citizen. That was the intention of the candidates. So with this, they tried to appear as though their intentions were for the greater good, to make America great again. And in order to do this, in their dialogues, they used simple basic language that was associated to the working class, as opposed to elaborated terms that they'd usually converse with when not in the public eye. This can be seen by Trump most commonly, for